Which step is first in the decision-making process? Making a decision can be hard in general, especially a big one, but being able to break it down can make it a lot easier. Personally, I had to make a huge decision in my life, and being able to understand these things helped me make a very sound decision that I feel very confident in. So with that being said, I plan to show you the first step in making the decision and what all goes into making that decision and how to go about the first step so you're set up for success for the rest of the decision-making process. So I promise you, by the end of this video, you will understand the first step in making a decision. With that being said, my name's Richardson. I'm a coach here at Life on Your Terms, and I make these videos to help pass on my expertise and pass on my knowledge so it's easier for you guys to move through these things quicker than I ever could. So the first step of making a decision is identifying the decision to be made. The actual act of recognizing the need to make a decision. I think often in our lives, we sometimes float along, not thinking that this thing needs to be decided and we need to take action on committing to something. For an example, is that I think often people will not make a decision, whether it's with a job, whether it's with a relationship, whether it's with their time, whether it's with their fitness. They're like, I'll start tomorrow, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But not making that decision in and of itself is a decision, and a decision will be given to you, and it is often not favorable. So recognizing the need for the decision is gonna be the first thing. So if you feel massive unhappiness in your life, it may be time to make some decisions. I'm not saying that all the time. I'm just saying if you feel that massive unhappiness, massive stress from some areas, it may be time to make a decision. And if you're struggling to identify those areas, I'd encourage you to take the balance wheel in the description below, because in that tool, it makes it really easy to see in your life, where are you struggling? Where are you doing really great? And you can learn from that from yourself. So I encourage you to go take that balance wheel so you can recognize the need for a decision. Now, on top of recognizing this need for decision, you want to define the problem or the opportunities and the context and the specifics of the decision to be made. What are some problems that are going to go into making this decision? What are some opportunities you may gain from making this decision? Maybe it's starting a business. And with a business, you could say, yeah, I'm gonna start tomorrow. I'm gonna figure out what my niche is. I'm gonna figure out who I'm gonna target. But if you're able to understand, okay, a decision needs to be made on my niche. And this was a recent problem I had. A decision needed to be made. And so then I had to find out what is the opportunity there with each niche I'm picking, but what is the problem with each niche I'm picking? And I realized I needed to make the decision because if I didn't make the decision, I wouldn't make as much money. So that was the key, and I wouldn't make as much impact as well. But the big decision in my life lately that I had to make that really was stressful and kind of hard to make, but I feel like I made the right choice by going through this process, was to go to master school to be a therapist or go to the coaching world. And so with this, I had to identify that decision needed to be made. I couldn't just float along or I was just wasting time. I could either go be a coach and start my own business, or I could go to therapy school, and it was time to choose, so I started applying or start my business. So I had to define the problem or the opportunity with it. I had to look at, okay, the problem with master school, the problem with coaching, the opportunity with coaching, the opportunity with master school. So that's the first step of decision making, is identifying a decision to be made. The second step of the first step of the decision making, or the second piece, you can think of this, throughout these 1 through 3 that I'm gonna talk about, just think of them as pieces of the first step. So the second step or piece is to gather relevant information. The way I like to think about gathering relevant information is you want to think short-term versus long-term, and then also does it align with your one thing. So short-term versus long-term with the decision is think about how does it benefit you in the short term, how does it benefit you in the long term, and which decision is going to be best for long-term. On top of that, your one thing, if you haven't read the book, I'd encourage you to do so, is what is your one, I like to think of it as your life's mission, or the most important thing, and it's just one thing. Because if you have two things, your focus is split. So you gotta think, what is your one thing? So for me, with master school or coaching, I just think about, okay, long-term versus short-term. So short-term with school, it would be a path to 6 figures, I mean, after 3 years, you're almost guaranteed as long as you can build your practice up, but there's a huge demand for therapy. But long term, I do believe that coaching, getting in the business and getting that experience was gonna be more worth it for me. So I made the choice to go with coaching because long term, I thought it benefited me more. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but I'm about a year in now and I think I've made the right choice. Now, on top of that, with my one thing is to empower others to not be in a victim mindset and take control of their lives so they can live a life on their terms or a life of their dreams. And so with that, I had a huge alignment with coaching and therapy, but I can do what I want to do. I can do my one thing without going to school for 3 years. And I think I was wasting a lot of my time. I think if I can get my skills out there, get my coaching out there and start helping people, that is gonna be the key for me to get better at helping people and better at coaching people. Because therapy typically focuses on the sins of the past and coaching focuses on the future. And a lot of what I do and what I want to do is focusing on the future. Don't get me wrong, with my coaching, there is a little place for the past, the first 2 weeks actually, but long term in my coaching, it's all forward thinking. So that helped me in my decision-making process with that. On top of gathering relevant information, you want to do any research and gather any data you need. I mean, what I like to do with research is gather any facts or any expert opinions. And the facts of the situation for me was that I was going to spend a shit ton of money going to master school. I wasn't going to get business experience, or at least not near as much as I would if I just went and started my own business. And on top of that, with facts and information, I went to expert opinions. Everybody in my life that is ahead of me, I have someone in my life who is a tech CEO, founder of a cryptocurrency app. I have my mentor who is a coach who coaches mid-market company CEOs. And I have someone that I looked up to greatly, which is Alex Ramosi. And all of those people encouraged me not to go to school. And I was like, okay, if they're encouraging me not to go to school, then I think it's pretty clear that they live lives that I want to get to eventually, so it made my decision easy. So for you, is looking at what are some expert opinions you can find, and you want to make sure these experts are, number one, in your ideal situation. So if there's people that are much ahead of you in relationships, professional, whatever it is, and they are giving you a piece of advice, just listen to it, and then do your own research. And also with research and data, make sure it's credible, because we don't want to base our whole decision off of this. It's just a helpful indicator. I would rather have you base your decision on your short-term and long-term comparison and your one thing comparison compared to what someone else told you to do. It's just a helpful indicator in the gathering the relevant information. On top of gathering relevant information, you also want to identify resources and constraints. So what time, money, or expertise is this decision going to have so that you can construct a realistic plan? So for me, with master school, I knew it was going to take me a lot of time. It was going to take me a lot of money, and yes, it would have given me the expertise, but at the sacrifice and the expense of all that time and money, which I believe that I can develop that expertise. Yes, I can't work with therapy modalities, but I can get the same outcome for my clients. At least I believe so. I can get the same outcome for my clients by practicing business, practicing getting better as a coach, and using my time and my money in that way instead. So for you, when it comes to identifying resources and constraints, just ask yourself, what time, money, and expertise is this going to take when I make this decision? Just kind of more long-term thinking. Now, on top of that, the last piece to the first step in the decision-making process is to explore alternatives. What other alternatives are out there? And with alternatives, I like to make a pros and cons list of all the decisions possible on the table. So I did have master school. I could go start my own business as a coach, but I also could have just gotten a job. I could have done that as well, and that would have been another thing, another route I could have gone. Another route could have been I could have gotten a job and then I go to master school 3 years later. And that's obviously still on the table. It's just that I'm committed to being a coach and starting my own business. But if you can create pros and cons lists and look into those options and alternatives, that can be helpful. And I want you to really look at all possible solutions. You may write off a solution and be like, no, I'm not gonna do that, it's not possible, whatever. But if you look at it, you might start to dig in and be like, you know what? Maybe that is possible. Maybe that is the best course of action. It's for you to decide, but to look at it. And also with this decision-making process, if you go through this first step and you've identified the decision needs to be made, you've gathered information, you've explored the alternatives, you may be feeling some stress. Maybe that stress looks like some anxiety. And if you have anxiety, you probably have too many perceived options on the table. And so you have too many perceived options on the table, you want to start eliminating. So if I had 10 options of what I could have done after college, I have no idea what I would have done. So I just started eliminating. I started realizing, okay, it's master school or coach because it aligns with my one thing. And those were the two things that aligned with my one thing. So those just easy decision between those two. And if you're feeling massive anxiety, just start eliminating, get down to 2 or 3 decisions. If you're feeling sadness related to your decision, you gathered information, you've looked at a decision needs to be made, and you're feeling kind of sad about it, it's probably because you have a lack of perceived options. You feel like you don't have that many options on the table. And with that, what you want to do is you want to find ways to add options, dig into alternatives even more so, gather more information so that you can make the best decision possible. So this is which step is the first in the decision-making process. If you like this, please comment. Please comment about what you like because it tells me to make more of these videos. And on top of it, if you'll like and subscribe, it helps the video and the channel a lot.